Majo Madden on the street in Veracruz. I could say that hot rod in the background was a distraction, but I realized in my first year on the road 4 years ago that if I didn't complain about the weed eaters and the motorcycles up in the mountains competing with the crickets and the birds, it was all fine. Those mechanical sounds are the bass line, and might be the same guy. And the tapping out on the wharf here, somebody repairing a boat. It's so calm today that the sounds carry forever. And in the Appalachian Mountains, it was so quiet out there that you could hear somebody talking on the next mountain. So if you're willing to let life be just what it is, if you are willing to be in the present moment, it's a wonderland. I just wandered away from my big black van, which is 3 cars down there. For the first time today, it's going on 11 o'clock, and I haven't managed to make it until now, more than about 15 feet away from the van, maybe 30, because so much life was happening there. And you could easily say that not much is going on today because it's slow compared with the weekend. This hotel doesn't fill up on the weekend, but it gets much busier, and this walkway gets kind of filled with people. There's so much people watching, it's incredible. And I talk about my fool on the hill mode, which is I just sit and observe. That may be the same guy. But look, and one of my principles of how to be happy is adjust your lie, go someplace new. If you get out of your familiar rut and go someplace that wakes you up, you don't have to make it as dramatic as traveling for 4 years and going to Mexico. It can be as simple as changing where you are in the car, or changing where the Buddhists say the ultimate power everybody has is where to focus their attention. You can do that. Just shift your attention to something else. A lot of times it means shifting from the inner chatter to the outside world. Paul Reps said outdoors forgives indoors. A lot of times that's true. Get out of your house, get out of your camper van, get out of your mind. Stop listening to the chatter in your mind and pay attention to what's going on out there. If you don't judge it, if you simply experience it and be with it, it's gorgeous. The people walking down the street, gorgeous. People walking along the wharf, there's so much to see. The way they swing their arms and carry a jacket over one shoulder or whatever, it's all incredibly interesting. Now, why does he have a big backpack? Who knows? You wondering is interesting. This wharf goes for a very long ways. It's a museum. It's a Navy base and a Navy museum celebrating the construction of this wharf in 1900. That's not a big guy standing over there. It's a statue. It's got loads of statues and loads of fishermen. And the one day I did walk it, even if you just walk, it's going to be 15 minutes to the end. But if you pay attention to everything, it can be more like a half an hour. And I promised I would come back and take a long video because the fishermen are really interesting with the ways they fish here and the way they operate with each other, the way people touch each other in Mexico. You see that? The little girl and the older son both leaning on the dad. This is a historic port. Puerto Veracruz is the oldest port in Mexico and one of the most active ports in Mexico. So there's Navy vessels, there's a big commercial operation down that way. I've been here for 5 weeks and I have not run out of things to observe at all. And sometimes the information does come from inside. You don't want to make it a rule that you always go outside. Sometimes you want to sit in one place Sometimes you do want to listen to what's inside, and if you've cleaned out your trauma, what comes from the inside can be pretty great stuff. It can be inspiration. So after I had one miraculous experience after another, the guy selling bolovanas, it's a local original dish in Veracruz. It's a meat pie, basically, or sometimes fruit. And they're really good. And they sell them for 25 pesos, which is less than 2 cents American. And they're proud of it. So I dropped everything to buy a meat pie from this guy and to interview him. He didn't mind introducing himself for the camera and giving out his call that he does as he goes around. And then later another guy selling bebidas, jugos, juice, fabulous horchata, rice drink down here, and tamarindo I never had discovered. So that was amazing. And then I was feeding the seagulls. I got about 3 videos out of that, because feeding the birds is one of the most exciting things I think you can do, and perfect because it celebrates your connection with them, and it makes them happy and it makes you happy. They've all got the same hats. Isn't that interesting? See, is that like interesting? I think that's so fun. They've all got basically the same hat. So one of the ways I shuttled inside was I remembered that the church I used to go to in Asheville, which I've had a very checkered history with, but many wonderful memories, on the outside of it, it had a quote that said, I remembered it as, to simply live is so exciting it leaves little time for anything else. Well, I popped that in Google and got reminded how wonderful Google is, because all these special sites of famous quotes couldn't find that quote. But even though I had misquoted it, Google popped it up immediately as coming from Emily Dickinson. So I got into how exciting Google is, and how fun is it to watch that guy selling his wares on the street, and to think about what I've learned from 10 months of Mexico, that Mexicans are so incredibly industrious. So incredibly industrious. They are hustling, hustling, hustling. Very few beggars in Mexico, because they're out there doing everything they can to keep it together. And in Mexico, they specialize in simply living. They don't know Emily Dickinson, but they're doing it. I interview people, and mostly I'll run into guys who have worked in the U.S. and come back. And the universal comment is, the U.S. is a great place to make money, to get work that pays well. But then you want to come back because Mexico is a good place to live. The actual quality of life is so much better here in so many ways, That big stick going up in the air, he's fishing something up. There are guys here who dive for shells. I love them. I think it's a good time for me to stop. So I'm going to be quiet now and go back to just doing it. And I was so busy responding to life, I pulled the filter off of a cigarette because I like them strong, and then shuttled it around 3 different places in my car over the next half hour. So I'm going to have that damn cigarette. And now it's blown away. I had thrown it down there. Usually I don't even do that because they keep these streets so impeccably clean. They clean them every morning. Yeah. Leaves little time for anything else. It doesn't leave a lot of time for being neurotic. Hola. Buenos dias, señor. The children engage in Mexico. Was that like perfect? They never got taught to be afraid of strangers, so they're not. So they're curious about strangers, and they'll check you out. And if there's anything interesting going on, like if they see a light in your eyes like you're enjoying them, then they'll show off or flirt with you or just have fun with you. It's exhausting. I live so fully every day that I fall asleep early usually, because I've just been so present so much that I'm used up. It's time to sleep. Okay, bye.